Yeah, I would like to introduce to you Car2Go, which is a scheme that we are running since 2009. I've prepared a little presentation. Okay, here we go. It's already on. Perfect. So I would like to start first why we are doing this. Basically, we are doing this to save space. Car sharing saves space. There's a study of the University of Wisconsin. They have found out that in a 5 million resident city, 400 million square feet would be used for parking structures, while 26 million feet would be used for universities. That means we are spending 15 times more space for dead matter than for the education of kids, which I think is very dangerous. And so we came up with a solution that helps save space, and I would like to show you why. Please concentrate on those black cars. It might be a bit difficult, as you will see, but please concentrate on these black cars because they, at the end, are the problem. Because, as you can see, they're just standing around the whole day. They come in the morning, they park the whole day, they consume space, and they just standing around. They are not used. Those little blue cars are the car-sharing cars. They're used all the time. And the whole philosophy is about sharing assets, sharing the same piece of metal several times so that not everybody has to bring their own piece of metal. So how are we doing this? We have come up with a system which is very, very close to the known car clubs, as you might know. Here in UK, we call them car clubs. In other parts of the world, they're called car sharing. So basically, it's about using cars that are provided by us. Our cars, in contrast to car clubs, are spread around the whole city. They're everywhere. They're parked wherever you can legally park a car. So there are no fixed stations. So as you don't know where the stations are or where the cars are right now, you need to find them. In order to find them, we have little tools like apps or an internet website where you can find those cars, identify them, and as a member, you then go to this car, you get a little member card from us when you register, and you will be able to open the car. You get into the car, you have to identify yourself, and then you drive around. You can drive wherever you want, you can drive as long as you want, you can drive spontaneously, you don't need to reserve the car. So you're very, very flexible, and flexibility is very important in today's world where things change so quickly. So once you just decided to finish using this car, you don't need to tell us in advance when that is. You just keep it as long as you want. You just park the car. And you can park it, as I said, at any legally possible spot, which is also very flexible and easy for you. And then you just finish the rental, and the car is ready for the next customer, and the whole circle starts from the beginning. This is very simple. The customer pays for this kind of car rental per minute and doesn't have to worry about anything else. Even the parking cost would be taken over by us. So how do you bring this into the cities and how do you make it attractive? I think the most important thing is you have to make it simple. People want to have simple ways of using things. They don't want to be somehow, in a framework or whatever. They really want to be free and do whatever they want at this specific point of time. So any time is also very important. This lady has a good chat. She doesn't want to stop it just because she has to return her car at 6 o'clock. So she wants to chat as long as she wants and then return the car. And the other thing is anywhere, people want the cars where they are and not want to walk to the cars. So we are doing this in 17 cities, and 3 of them, and now I'm coming to the point here, is we are running this with electric cars. These are Amsterdam, San Diego, and Stuttgart, so altogether we have 900 electric cars on the road, each 300 in each of these cities. And I would like to focus a bit on our experience from Amsterdam. You can see from the statistic here that we have 300 cars. This is about 9% of all of our fleet are electric cars in Amsterdam. We have another 600, as I said, in other cities. In Amsterdam, we have a home area, we call it, of 80 square kilometers where those cars are based. You can start the rental and finish the rental inside this home area. So it's a quite large area where those cars are spread over. But it's big enough that we attracted so far 10,000 out of our more than 200,000 members worldwide. I would like to come a bit on the economies of electric car sharing. If you see on the left, this is a cost structure, part of the cost structure we would have for combustion engines. And as you can see, the vehicle price is a very big issue in this. And the vehicle price, as you all know, for electric vehicles, it's much higher than for combustion engine vehicles. So we have a kind of challenge for our business case over here because people are not ready to pay much more for electric vehicles. They would, expect to pay the same price than for a combustion engine car. So another one is insurance. Insurances basically don't know really a lot about electric car sharing. So they usually give you a premium and would have you pay a bit more. Fuel, of course, is less. Electricity is cheaper than the oil we have today. And then we have parking. So at the end, you will see that in order to run this in a sustainable, economically sustainable way, we need to have a reduction in terms of parking cost or other costs that help us to sustain this model. So coming to Amsterdam, they have done a lot on this. They provide free electric parking for any kind of vehicle, not only for ours, but for any vehicle. If you purchase an electric vehicle, you will get one charging pole from them. So by this, they have quite a few by now. They want to have 1,000 by end of 2013. A bit about our experience from Amsterdam. We were talking about technology, except for the period that you mentioned, John, in the beginning of the 20th century. This is a very new technology. We are used to very refined kind of vehicles that have been refined for 125 years. But is a new technology, so we learn a lot about technology. We still need a lot of standardization. It's very new, it's very chaotic still. We need standards so that people can conveniently use this technology. In Amsterdam, we have two kinds of charging poles, so they never know how to use each of the charging poles. So things have to be very easy and convenient. But once people get used to, they get very excited about all this. Electric mobility is exciting. They like it. Once you have ever tried it, it's lots of fun. So a bit of the effects on the mobility, and then I will be finished. It's 39% of our customers currently drive less kilometers with their private cars. This is not only electric cars, this is overall our car sharing scheme. But it has an effect on private car usage. And another thing which I think is very important, which is very combined with what we maybe hear next about the smartphones and about communication, that people start thinking about mobility in terms of situations. When you have a private car, you just naturally sit in the car every morning because it's there. Yeah, you pay it anyway and it's there, so you sit in the car, there's no question what else to do. If you don't have a car and if you use the whole transport system, you selectively use the things. So our customers, they don't use car to go all the time. As you can see, only 13% of the cases. Most of the time they use public transport. This is a worldwide figure. In Europe it would be even 35% of trips using public transport. So the real thing that changes is the attitude towards mobility, of thinking in terms of, this is a block where I always use my private car, to coming to flexibility about mobility situations where I choose the right piece of mobility that I need right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. I'd like to immediately connect what you said with what we heard from John earlier. And John, obviously this concept ticks a couple of boxes when you're talking about the post-car system. It's deprivatized, it's electric, it's light. And the question I'd have is this the kind of post-car cities system for cities which you imagine, or are we possibly giving the car a second life which it doesn't deserve?
Second life. Yeah, I mean, I would have thought this is a very interesting innovation that might come to be part of what I call a post-car socio-technical system. And I thought one thing you particularly emphasized, which was important, was the importance that it should be fun and fashionable. So it seems to me something that's going to replace the car system. Will have to have many characteristics, but it will have to be the latest thing, so that the steel and petroleum car seems so 20th century or even 19th century. And so the 21st century will be kind of figured around a different set of social arrangements and technologies and pleasures. It should be pleasurable, and that's what you were partly capturing.
Now, there is another question about the current success of car sharing, which very much relies on smart mobile phones. Car sharing as a strategy in itself has been, probably some argue, already created in the 70s, scaled in the 90s, but it's really hitting the ground now. And it's a question for Patrick, because it is indeed the mobile, the smartphone, which in the end was able to scale car sharing. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, I think it is, and I think it's quite interesting to look at what happens now with the evolution of smartphones. What we really see is that telecom is becoming a horizontal rather than a vertical industry. It used to be that you called someone, it was an industry in itself, the telecom. Now it becomes almost like a utility. It needs to be there in order to have many other ideas, innovation, products on top of that. I think that's true. That is one thing that is happening.
Kent, would you like to come in, given that you have been pioneering a particular spatially efficient vehicle, and also link that technology a bit to this idea of sharing?
Well, I think the future really is sharing. We're looking at having a whole ecosystem of vehicles where you including mass transit, located in very walkable cities. So you minimize the need for mechanized mobility to begin with, and then you have the right vehicle at the right time in the right place. So it's more fun and more affordable and hopefully faster. And I think the currency that makes all of that happen is the data that that's enabled by new communication technologies.
Now, a question I have to ask you, Rainer, relates a bit to, I guess, the whole strategy behind car sharing when it comes to its relationship to companies that produce private vehicles. A recent study from Germany showed that after 7 months of car sharing, car ownership dropped amongst those new users from 43 to 19%. When I speak to automobile manufacturers, they usually say, well, we like car sharing because we can already create sort of a consumer preference for the car that then will be eventually bought when people have the money for it. If these figures are right, that doesn't sound particularly encouraging. How do you sell your system, your strategy, amongst the broader Daimler ecosphere?
Well, basically, my thesis is this drop of car ownership would have happened anyway. And this is, I think, exactly the point. We heard this today already, that you shouldn't fight against the trend, you should go with the trend. And car ownership in cities is already at less than 50%. Like in New York would be, I think, 46%. In Tokyo it's 48%. So people don't own cars anyway. So if you ask a manufacturer what to do now, I mean, we won't catch those 52% anyway. They won't never go into any of our point of sales. Why should I then fight for the 48 and decreasing part of 48% together with another, I don't know, 30 manufacturers? So we asked ourselves, so how can we put something on the street for the 52%? And how can we make what they use today all in all more attractive? Because I also want to emphasize, we don't want to replace mobility with Car2Go. We just want to be a piece of the puzzle in the mobility system. And we have done lots of activities together with public transport companies to offer common offers, joint offers. And at the end, we think this trend is happening anyway. Of course, there are some people in our company who we have lots of discussions with, but at the end, the company is committed. This is supposed to be a business, and we are doing pretty fine, I think.
Well, I think this is a good moment to move on to another technology that clearly has made certain older transport modes obsolete. It's an old and new technology at the same time. It's the bicycle. That is, of course, having an incredible renaissance around the world. And it's becoming smart and electric as well. If I can invite Frauke to give her presentation on smart e-bikes, please.
Sure, thank you. Just see if this is all working.